All right, this is section 1904. It is Monday, first week of August. Hard to believe that. What an exciting couple of months we have lined up for you here between Padre baseball, SDFC, season number 1. Pretty excited about that, just as a bigger picture, overarching place to start this podcast. But I have returned home, back in Imperial Beach. John, it is good to see you. It is not just me talking into my cell phone and randomly emailing you different audio clips from a pool in Cancun, Mexico. I'm back, arrived safe and sound yesterday afternoon, got a good night's sleep, swept out a little bit of that tequila, and ready to rock and roll. Section 1904 is always free on Mondays. So if this is your first experience, welcome in. I'm Darren Smith. He's John Gennaro. John, good to chat.
Good to see your face, Darren. Good to hear your voice. Good to have you back, as much as I feel like we together, you by the pool and me in front of my computer, did a good job of covering the trade deadline on Thursday. And then I thought the podcast I did with our buddy Dylan from Letters to AJ on Friday was quite good. It is nice to have you back.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So let me just ask a quick follow-up.
Sure.
On the voice memos that I sent.
Sure.
Give me your honest review of that.
Both of them? The first one, which was the reaction to the A's trade, felt like, kind of classic Darren Smith. You were seeing the thing that other people weren't necessarily seeing. You were kind of laughing at the AJ Preller is always trading his top prospect, and this is just, you gotta roll the dice sometimes, and AJ's a madman, and this is exciting and this is fun. The one where you were, to quote yourself, 3 sheets to the wind after the trade deadline, I loved. Now, you were slurring, and I told you you were slurring, but you also were quoting Hunter S. Thompson, and you were having a good time. And you weren't having a good time because you were 3 sheets to the wind. You were having a good time with the idea that the Padres are run by this madman and that it's always going to be entertaining. And I think there was also this part of you, like there was with me and a lot of other Padre fans, like this team got significantly better, which means they're going to be a lot more fun to watch for the next few months. They have a higher floor and a higher ceiling. They're not top heavy. We're not going to spend the next 2 months going like, well, is Tatis going to turn it around, or is this offense just going to die? Like now it's a whole other thing. And I thought you did a great job of not necessarily digging into the transactions and how it all fits together, which is where I was, but looking at the bigger picture of like, okay, AJ did the thing. It was crazy. It was wild. It was fun. It's going to be exciting for the next few months. Strap in. This is what we watch for. This is why we pay attention to this team. And so, yeah, I gladly threw it at the end of the podcast because I thought it was a good mesh with me, who was just like trying to figure out roster crunches and where everyone fit into the roster, which was just me being a dork.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think that applies both ways, right? Anybody quoting Hunter S. Thompson from a beach in Cancun probably has some dork to him. I will say, I mean, I know he's not everybody's cup of tea. I know he's not everybody's favorite general manager, but I really do think we are going to miss him when he is gone. I don't know when that day is. And as I alluded to last week, sometimes those loose lips sink ships. But, there is still this sense out there, that it's pretty high stakes for him. But I really do think, as much as people can be critical of him and his roster construction, and I'm sure there was a ton of that, I do think that the energy that he brings, I do think that the sizzle that he brings, I do feel like we're all going to miss this guy when he's gone. I'm not saying there aren't better general managers. I'm not saying that there's not a better way to do this. I would be lying if I said I didn't spend years on radio talking about building up a farm system so that you can promote players from the farm to do what the Houston Astros did or do what the Tampa Rays did. So, not that the Rays had the ultimate success, but, there was that book, The Extra 2%, was it, by now disgraced Jonah Carey?
Yep.
So, there was that book, there was that model. That's something that Jed Hoyer brought into the mix. That's something that Josh Burns picked up on. So I am a believer in that. As a friend of AJ Hinch, I would tell you, like, I got a glimpse inside of what was going on with the Astros, not just the sign stealing, everybody. But, they had all these top picks, and they tanked for all these years, and they lost 1 billion games, and they put together, the bones of a really good roster. So I understand that there's preferable ways, in some people's opinions, to go about doing this. Even me, myself, I've said what I've said. People probably remember it. But I will say I do find myself still really impressed by AJ Preller. And just like I said, I think we're going to miss him when he's gone. I just do think there is something about him where, he is so singularly focused on winning today. Like he just wants to win today. Like that's what matters is how do you win today, tomorrow, this year. And if Leo DeVries could help you win on the field today, then he would have Leo DeVries there.
Yeah.
But he can't. So how does he help you win? He helps you win by using him as a trade piece to go out there and get another really, really good bullpen arm and a middle of the rotation, back of the rotation starting pitcher. And that is part of what the farm system is for. John Conniff would tell us this all the time. Your farm system isn't just there to get promoted to the big leagues. The farm system, full stop, is there to help the big league club. That doesn't always mean by playing. It doesn't always mean by being on the 26-man roster. Your farm system is there to help the big league club. And I don't know that this is going to work. I don't. I mean, I'm still where I'm at from last Thursday, but I understand it, and I appreciate it, I think, because I think he's saying, especially if you're not going to give me a bunch more money, then this is what I'm going to have to do in order to do the thing that I think it's going to take for us to win and win big this season. And I do. I think there's a lot of general managers around the league that I've talked to who think that Preller is kind of crazy, but they admire him in a way because he is the person that they would all really, really like to be, but they're risk adverse. They have owners that don't let them do these things. They don't have the talent to fill the farm system. And I've had these conversations with general managers, frankly, who think he's an idiot, but they still think, like, I appreciate that guy because I think that's the way you have to win, especially if you're a team like the Padres.
Well, and the thing that went unsaid there is that AJ Preller's contract runs out after next season. And there's a very, 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 very small chance that they let him walk into a lame duck year as the president of baseball operations for this team. So the end of this season, they're going to be probably making some sort of decision about, are we letting him go? Are we giving him an extension? And what is the best possible job security for AJ Preller at the end of this year? Winning a title. You think he's going to get shit canned if they go to the World Series? Even if they just win the National League and they go to the World Series, that is job security. Is having 19-year-old Leo DeVries playing pretty well in single A job security? No, that doesn't matter at all. So, like, honestly, this I don't think was said on Thursday or Friday or probably by anyone else today. Shout out to John Seidler and anyone else who told AJ Preller, go ahead and trade him. Go ahead and trade the top prospect. Do what you think is in the best interest of the team. And for AJ Preller, I think what's in the best interest of the team also aligns with what's in his best interest to keep this job, which is to maximize this year's roster and see how far it can possibly go by filling the gaps. And you're right. Like, he probably had a conversation where they were like, you can't spend more than X amount of dollars improving this team at the trade deadline. And he was like, well, then I gotta be able to spend my prospect capital to bring back talent. And they were like, sure, do it. Fine. We get it. And it's like, now we get to see if the bet pays off or not.
Yep, indeed. Now, I know we go through the standings usually on Monday, 62 and 50 right now. Pretty good weekend at Petco Park. Do you remember where the playoff odds were a week ago, according to Fangraphs and Baseball Reference? Because I had a number in my head that I thought we said on the show that looks a lot different than it does today, according to the same two websites. But do you remember, top of your head, where we were a week ago?
I remember it being in the 50s. I thought it was in the low 50s.
Right. 89.8% according to Fangraphs, 81.2% according to Baseball Reference. Now, again, these are projections. You don't know what's going to happen. Nobody can predict the future. So they're just based, I think, on simulations. I don't know exactly the way these things are calculated. But in the span of a week, and the Padres won however many in a row and have looked good doing it, 7-3 last 10, and made these trades, they have gone somewhere from about 51%, according to the same projection sites, almost 81 to 89% on Fangraphs. So again, do with that what you will. I didn't put a ton of stock into it last week, but just to satisfy my own curiosity and the curiosity of people who are listening, I figured I'd bring it up. Was there any consensus over the weekend, John, since you're a pretty active guy? I know you are reluctantly back on Twitter, But since you're a pretty active guy, you're a pretty aware guy. I was trying to scroll through Discord when I was flying home from Cancun, and I thought I saw a little bit about people or Padre Twitter might be a little bit of just raging about some of this sort of thing. I didn't get a sense. I have resisted the urge to play catch up on all of that sort of nonsense. So was there any consensus around town? Ballpark looked great. Looked like everybody was having a good time. Then again, social media is its own universe.
Ballpark looked great. The Padres look like a complete team. The new guys are contributing. It's all going well for AJ Preller. What happened over the weekend, and this is kind of my fault. And I told you I was doing this. I didn't exactly plan on doing it while you were drunk in Mexico, but told you I was planning on doing this. I interviewed the guy who used to be known as Mens Rea on Twitter. Now he's Mency on Blue Sky. And I posted it on Saturday morning to Section 1904, and it was just for subscribers. And I wanted to talk with him about how such a diehard Padres fan has fallen out of love with the team simply because they're trading away prospects. And we had a conversation, and it got very, very negative reaction from Padres Twitter. It also might be, one of the highest trafficked things we've ever done on Section 1904 because it went kind of viral with hatred and vitriol on Twitter. There were some people on Blue Sky that were like, thank you for bringing on someone with a differing viewpoint and having a reasonable conversation about it. But yeah, I think that is now becoming the minority amongst Padres social media, the people who are like, stop trading away the future for today. Right now, in the basking in the glow, standing in the shadow of that trade deadline, I think everyone's like, screw it, this is going to be fun. Let's see how far it goes. I think that's the consensus right now.
Okay. All right, good. Yeah, because I caught a glimpse of something on Discord. Somebody saying that our podcast got dragged, and I wasn't sure what that was about.
That's what that was about.
Oh, okay. Then I got a little self-conscious. I was like, maybe I shouldn't have done that voice memo.
Nope, wasn't you. You were great. No, it's just people very, very angry that we were having on someone who was like a downer after the trade deadline to talk about why he doesn't care about the Padres anymore, and then people just attacking him for his own views, which whatever. But no, look, Padres have won 7 of their last 8. I think they're 7-1 in their last 8. And if you were asking me why their playoff odds went up, I think it has something to do with the fact that since we talked about it last time, they swept the Mets, who are good. They took 2 or 3 from the Cardinals, who were kind of in the wild card race. But also, everyone around the Padres, like the Giants, the Diamondbacks, some of the other teams that we thought that they were going to be, kind of fighting with the rest of the season, basically sold off. And so now this 3-game series against the Diamondbacks that starts tonight looks easier than it did a week ago. These upcoming series against the San Francisco Giants, as you mentioned, you were near a Giants fan. It was like absolutely losing his mind that the Giants seemed to kind of be giving up around the trade deadline after trading for Devers, but also like they've been really bad the last couple of weeks. So I think a lot of these teams that it looked like were going to be tough outs for the Padres going forward now look like easier outs. I think the strength of schedule is probably getting easier for the Padres. But yeah, I think everyone's kind of living in the moment like we implored them to do.
All right, so 2 things on that. The San Francisco Giant fan is really one of the best winemakers in the U.S. His name is Jeff Stewart, and I just really appreciated the contrast of the conversations when I'm like, oh, another trade. Oh, another trade. Oh, a closer. Oh, here's a catcher. And he's just sort of like, oh. What's my team doing? Oh, they're trading
Devers.
guys away. Yeah.
They got Devers.
That's what I said. I said, yeah, but then it's like, well, but is anybody going to survive this? The one thing I said to him, the one thing I talked about is, I don't know why we're turning this into a Giant show, but I did say, like, I do wonder if Buster has enough of that scumbag that you got to have to be a general manager. Like you kind of got to have that edge to you a little bit in sports. You gotta be willing to walk around the edges, tiptoe around the edges a little bit, roll up your sleeves, maybe go to some countries where we're not really supposed to go if you want to try to find a scout player, you got to do some of that stuff. Anyway, not the point. But, there was like this contrast, right? Because the 2 teams have mostly been side by side in the standings for the entirety of the regular season. The second thing you just brought up And it got a little creepy for me here because I was like, wow, can he see my screen? I'm literally looking at the strength of schedule for the remainder of 2025. And statistically, the Padres have the second easiest schedule. Only the Dodgers have an easier one, of course, but the Padres have statistically what is the second easiest schedule remaining in baseball. So do with that what you will. Again, not a guarantee for anything, but I just, I think now after a weekend of everybody processing this, I just, even if you're like, whoa, but I've been following Leo DeVries, I feel bad for our guys at Mad Friars. Like, what are they writing about? Like maybe we should have John back on the show or David. But like, I'm sure there are other players there. The second part is, or not the second, third part is, I know there's this idea that like, oh, we've just given up on the future. Not all of these guys. Yes, King's going to walk out at the end of the year. Cease is going to walk out at the end of the year. Arise is going to walk out at the end of the year. Suarez likely to walk out at the end of the year. Who are the rentals? Ryan O'Hearn, Nestor Cortez. Those are the rentals. The other guys are here though. Sears is here. Mason Miller's here. The catcher's here.
Yeah.
Laureano's here, right? And then you have that on top of what you already have with Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis. Xander, for better, for worse.
Jackson Merrill,
Jake Cronenworth. So, it's not like you've completely just said, yes, you have emptied out a lot of your equity in the farm system. But didn't I just read recently that AJ Preller's already in on another top international prospect?
Probably. Speaking of our buddies at Mad Friars, John Conniff did text me to let me know that every single one of the guys that went back to the Orioles for Laureano and O'Hearn had been interviewed and profiled on Mad Friar's website. And he was like, so if the Padres want to send me a check for making their prospects look good, I'm happy to accept. Yeah, it's still, and there was some sort of mention from somebody, and I think maybe it was Schilt last week that seemed to imply that Luis Arraez had a future with the Padres beyond this year, which makes some sense. But yeah, it's a good team that seems like it's pretty well locked into this group for a while. And look, we said it heading into the trade deadline. Like the rest of this season, if not the next few seasons, is kind of going to rest on like what happens with Yu Darvish and Michael King, and to a more futuristic, tense Joe Musgrove. And that's still basically true. Like AJ Preller said, this team's going to show me, the level of investment that needs to go into it. And then Michael King looks like he's getting healthy. Yu Darvish had a really good start. And I think that those things matched with the fact that the Padres went on a little bit of a run offensively, convinced AJ Preller, like, okay, I can trust this team. I can believe in this team. Maybe this year and next year and the following year, I don't need to freak out about, do I need to add a bunch of starting pitching, or can we get by with the guys that we have? But right now, like the Padres are doing the thing that they don't ever really do, and it makes me very happy, which is almost everyone in the lineup is having a good time. There's no like three guys in the lineup that are ice cold, that are dragging down everyone else. It's like 1 through 9, they look pretty good. I do want to just point out that when I had Dylan on Friday, and he wrote about this on Letters to AJ. He wrote about it, at the day of the deadline, and then I think this morning recapping the Cardinals thing. We spent a lot of time talking about Freddie Fermin's bunting because it's really cool, and I think I've been bunt pilled, Darren. Like the way that this guy bunts is so smart and so creative and so wonderful. And I saw him do it in the game yesterday, and then I saw Fernando Tatis Jr. basically try and emulate it. And I was like, it's already working. They got the smart catcher, and he's doing smart things. And now the other players are like, wait, I could do that too. And it's just, I don't know. I'm very excited about where this team is right now.
Yeah, and obviously there's always one caveat when it comes to making trades like this at the trade deadline. Who are these guys? How do they fit in? Things can be a little bit different there for guys that are moving from one coast to the other. Do these people have children? Are these kids in school? What are they going to do with these kids in school now? Like all these sort of things. I don't know that any of this has been addressed. And I know for a lot of people, you're like, hey man, if I made that much money, I wouldn't care. Yeah, I know. But they still are human, and they still do have real human being parental concerns. So those are the things I think you don't really know about. Bringing in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, six guys, is it? You don't know like what is their situation. Like
Seven. One of them went to the minors. Whose kid is it? Billy Wagner's kid. Billy Wagner's kid went to the minors. They got 7, but 6 of them came to San Diego. Sorry.
Right. Yeah, but those are all real things too, right? Not to make any excuses for Soto back in 2023, but it was pointed out he was like at a house and he was trying to worry about the house. And
it's a lot.
It is. I mean, it is a lot. It's a different routine. It's a different clubhouse. Maybe some of these guys were the alpha dogs in their former clubhouse. I don't know. I don't know enough about the A's. I don't know enough about the Orioles to know exactly where these guys slotted in. But now you're like, well, who does the clubhouse revolve around? Probably Manny. So, you have to learn how to revolve around Manny Machado. And, that might be something new, a new experience for other people because Manny maybe doesn't like certain things that they liked in another, so these are all little tiny things. I'm not saying any of them are insurmountable by any stretch of the imagination, but, you do have to think about it. You do have to think it through because, sometimes guys can come in here. Remember, it wasn't just Soto. Remember Josh Hader came in here and he was replaced as the closer. Remember that? They actually put him on the bench for a while and said, you are not going to be the closer because we've got to figure some things out with you mechanically. That happened while he was a San Diego Padre.
I forgot. That was right away.
Right. It didn't take long, and they decided, okay, we're going to give him a break here. And then they used him in non-leverage situations or low leverage, and then they kind of grooved him back in there so that he was really humming by the end of the year. But that didn't take long. Now, I'm not saying that was all because, he didn't know where to live or how to drive to work. But, these are all new experiences. I mean, if you literally were working a job today and tomorrow your job was in Norfolk, Virginia, and like you just were expected to hit the ground running, like that might be difficult. That might be a little bit more difficult, regardless of what your salary is. And yes, it's part of their job. But regardless of what your salary is, that might be something that's just, it could take a minute for some of these guys to adjust, right? We always think about this with free agency too, guys that have signed big free agent deals. There's always this inclination to want to impress. And that first year, Manny Machado's first year, wasn't great. Now, lots of excuses came in late, et cetera, but not in shape. Just it didn't go well. And these things kind of happen. So, I think you have to give a little bit of a grace period here, although first impressions seem like they were pretty good. At least from Mason Miller, it looks like he has a fancy opening on the scoreboard that I saw when Marty Caswell posted that on Twitter. So he's got the big number 22 up there, and he's got this whole pyrotechnic thing happening, so good on him. I guess, that's another guy too, because like if Suarez leaves, you've got a closer. You know, like think about that. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. So it's not like you've just completely abandoned the future. This guy's under control, even if some people think, they definitely sold high with Sacramento or the A's or whatever they're called. So anyhow, just something to keep note of because, when you're, especially if you're bringing in, this many, stands to reason one of them might have a tough time adjusting or two just for a couple of weeks. So I would say give them a little bit of grace.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I said as much, maybe even on the like trade deadline recap podcast of like, look, there's a human element here. And even if these guys have visited San Diego on the road with their team, that doesn't mean that they're comfortable here. They know their way around here. They have friends here, et cetera, et cetera. The one person that I think I put this in front row seat this morning, I was excited about this because it makes that transition so much easier. Nestor Cortez, who is probably going to pitch sometime this week, get a start sometime this week for the Padres. He got called up. Randy Vasquez got sent down. So Nestor Cortez is finally healthy. He was teammates on the Yankees with Michael King, Wandy Peralta, and JP Sears. But better than that, he was childhood friends with Manny Machado. They're both from South Florida. And I think he played with Machado for a year with the Orioles very early on in both of their careers. So Nestor Cortez should have an easier time, knowing all those guys and having some built-in friendships translating into it. The other thing about Mason Miller, talked about this a little bit with Dylan, but it doesn't matter because there's no real like conclusion to be made here. But Mason Miller has in his track record some starting pitching experience, and the A's were always wary to try him out there. My guess is because they thought he had more value as a lights-out closer than whatever he might be as a starting pitcher, whether that's an injury risk or just not an ace. Maybe he's like a middle-of-the-road start. But I like the fact that it gives them so much flexibility heading into next season. Suarez leaves and, I don't know, Morahone wants to go into the starting rotation. You have Miller there to keep that depth, 2-3 guys deep in the bullpen of like elite arms. Or if, the bullpen stays intact, maybe Suarez comes back at a reasonable deal. Maybe you need to fill a spot in the starting rotation because Cease leaves and King leaves and whatever. And you can say, all right, we're going to try out Mason Miller as a starting pitcher. It just gives them a ton of flexibility in addition to giving them like a great weapon for this season and 3 more after this.
Yeah, I love the quote. I don't know where it was that I read it, but I think we've said similar stuff about when we were talking buying, selling, what do you buy? And the whole conversation about trading away a reliever, I was like, I don't know. I don't think I would do that because you go from 4 and then you trade 1 and then one gets hurt. Now you're done with, so. Right. The quote I think came from, was it Cronenworth? He said something to the effect of, can you imagine guys are going to start counting outs in the 4th or 5th inning of some of these games? Like that's literally what's going to be happening here. Guys are going to start looking around and being like, man, we're down 2-0 in the 3rd inning. We better figure out a way to score. You know what I mean? Like, and like, that's a real thing that happens during the playoffs a lot. Like this has become a little bit of a more modern trend. Again, I will go back to AJ Hinch, who I remember saying this. And like, listen, would AJ like to have 5 Scoobles? Of course. But it's not realistic. And how you shorten these games becomes part of the strategic approach to games being played in the postseason. We think we saw that a little bit last year. The Padres were on the losing end of it. So I do like that sentiment. I do like that. I mean, again, another guy, it's hard to just sound like a sufferable name dropper here. But, working with Rob Dibble back in late 90s, 2000s, he was part of the Nasty Boys. The Norm Charlton, Randy Myers, and Rob Dibble, the Nasty Boys there. If you were trailing in a game going into the 7th, you were done. So, they would basically have Jose Rio go out there and give you 6 good innings, and then some combination of Dibble, Charlton, and Myers would come into the game, and you'd be done. Like, you'd be finished. And that team won the World Series. They were like the MVPs of the NLCS, I think. So, I know it's been around for a while. It's not just all something happening here over the last couple of years, but roles change in the playoffs. And I do love that. Like, man, we get a lead in the 3rd, 4th inning. That's going to be a lot of pressure on that other team to try to figure out a way to get on the board before we start trotting out one high leverage reliever after another. And that's pretty intimidating. When you look out there, you're like, oh, man, look at these arms that could be coming into the game to protect this lead right now.
Yeah, it's I have a lot of fear about Dylan Cease starting a playoff game, but if you tell Dylan Cease, like, we just need 3 good innings from you, and he gives you 3 good innings, and then out comes Joe Musgrove trotting in to give you like 1 or 2, and then out comes Mason Miller, and out comes Estrada, and all of a sudden the game's over, and you haven't faced a pitcher that you can easily get a hit off of all game. It's It could be really good. I said on Thursday kind of over and over again that this now gives Mike Schilt a lot of weapons to play with, but it also makes his job a lot more complicated because he's got to balance stuff like, how do I find playing time for Gavin Sheets and Ryan O'Hearn, even though they play the same positions and are similar style players? How do I find regular work for all of these guys in the bullpen? Like Mason Miller came in and pitched on Friday and then didn't pitch on Saturday or Sunday. And people are like, well, 2 games in a row where you didn't use him. It's like, that's going to happen. These are good problems to have, but that stuff's going to happen.
Yeah. I think you brought up Dylan Cease. What did AC had it in the Padre Daily today about Cease-Zilla. Padre Daily, calling Cease the right-handed Blake Snell is simplifying things too much. I don't know. I mean, Kevin, you just said Cease-Zilla as your header into this passage. They both have sizzling stuff, swing and miss. I mean, that is the thing that you could always do with like Blake Snell was We just be like, yo, just go out there, give us your 10 punch outs in 5 innings. Give it everything you got. We're not trying to get you through the lineup here.
Yeah.
More than a couple of times when we got these kind of arms out there in the bullpen. But it reminded me of that when you were just saying that about Dylan Cease. He throws a lot of pitches in a short amount of time, punches out a lot of guys. So, that's something that I think you can use to your advantage when you get into the playoffs, should you get into the playoffs. And speaking of, I just wonder, John, do you want to – AC wrote also today, he talked about the Padres, where they are in the wild card. And I thought, okay, interesting that they have like a 4.5 game lead in the final wild card spot, but they're close to the 5th wild card spot. I'm paraphrasing here. 3 back in the division.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Not just 3 back in the division, but 3 back in the division against a team that, I had this up a second ago. Let me hit the back button a couple times. Against a team that you play 6 times this month. So that's a real opportunity. And actually, if I can categorize the Diamondbacks and the Giants as being bad teams right now, like not playoff contending teams, the Padres have a series against a bad team, series against a good team, Red Sox, series against a bad team, Giants, series against a good team, Dodgers, series against a bad team, Giants, series against a good team, Dodgers. So they should have plenty of time to kind of figure out their rotations, their bullpen, and everything else to be able to have everything they need to throw at the Dodgers in these 6 games. And on top of that, they should be able to make some hay against the Giants and the Diamondbacks anyway. So I think there's a real possibility that if the Padres or the Dodgers win the NL West, they win it by a game, a half game, something like that. I think it's going to be pretty close. We'll see, but I think it's going to be pretty close.
I would say I've spent the majority of this season thinking that you're playing for a wild card spot and just getting in. But it is worth some consideration, I think. I know the Dodgers are starting to get some pieces back, but I do think it is not something that should just be dismissed, and that wild card standing should be the only thing that we pay attention to. Like you said, especially when you're talking about multiple head-to-head matchups, having played pretty well against them, and what it is that you just brought through the door to bring these guys into the big league club. I would think, I'm not ready to say, okay, done and dusted, give the Dodgers the NL West again for the millionth time out of 1,000,001. But still the favorites, obviously, but I do think that there is at least room in the conversation for us to reserve our crowning of the NL West champs today for me. So that's where I would sit on that.
I agree with that. And I made this joke before the season. I haven't made it again since, but I'll make it right now, which is the Padres have a better chance of winning the World Series this year than the LA Dodgers, for the simple fact that the LA Dodgers won it last year. And the last time a team won the World Series 2 years in a row was 25 years ago. So I think the Padres are okay. They're in a good spot. And actually, I think that factored into why Preller pushed his chips in a little bit here. Not just the job security and everything else, but I think he looks at, okay, we can make a go at the division. And if we don't get it, we'll probably end up in the wild card. But I don't think he did all this going, we got the wild card spot, so we're good. I think he looked and went, we can try and chase the Dodgers down. We have a chance to catch them.
Well, I will say those home playoff games really matter to the business department.
Yeah, I bet.
I mean, you really want to be hosting. You really, really, really want to be hosting home playoff games whenever you can in this sport, because it is printing money at the box office at Petco Park or wherever you might be. So I know that would be an important part on the business side. Whatever it is that they added, you would offset pretty much by hosting one of these games. So hopefully that turns out to be the scenario. Yeah, I mean, the World Series stuff, like, who are the favorites right now to win the World Series? Let me just take a quick scroll here. It is the Dodgers.
Is it really?
At 19.9%. So it is more likely than not that they're not going to win.
Right.
Padres probably aren't going to win, but can they? I do think that they put themselves in the category of, can they? Yes. I think that the answer to that would be yes. And you could take a huge step in that direction if you can somehow figure out a way to be competitive with Los Angeles for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking around, and the best record in baseball is the Milwaukee Brewers, who are 67-44, but they're a game or two ahead of the Cubs, ahead of the Dodgers, ahead of the Blue Jays, and ahead of the Tigers. And then a couple games below those teams is the Astros, the Red Sox, the Phillies, the Mets, and the Padres. So the Padres are right there and, one of the top tiers. And, in theory, they just took some of their weaknesses and maybe turned them into strengths, or at least eliminated them as weaknesses. And and gave themselves a lot of depth, which I like, because there's always that unpredictable injury that can throw your whole playoff chase into chaos. And now the Padres seemingly have the ability to manage one of those, which I don't know if the Dodgers would or any of these other teams would. So, yeah, I'm very, very, very high on this team at the moment.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I think that there is a human element of it. I mean, I really like watching Randy Vasquez pitch. I know it's a roller coaster ride with him, but being optioned does give you now a little bit of room to be able to sustain one of those injuries. And, I think that's as much as you feel for the guy, right? I mean, the team had a really, really good record when he pitched. I don't have it in front of me, but I think they had won their last 6 games that Randy Vasquez started, something like that. But the record overall was really good when he pitched for the Padres, even if it was a little bit of white knuckle driving. And there was a lot of contact there with Randy Vasquez. I think Dylan from Letters to AJ said it several times. I don't know how he does this, but he does it. And, there is that side. It's like, oh, man, everybody's super excited. It's like, your locker's been cleaned out. Here's your Southwest ticket to El Paso. That's just like the brutal side of it.
Yeah.
But I do think then, like a Matt Waldron last year, people won't forget, exactly, the ways in which he contributed, unorthodox as they might have been at times.
Yeah, Dylan called him Strandy Vasquez the other day on the podcast, which I think is a nickname that is been on other podcasts as well. As far as he puts a lot of guys on and then he gets out of trouble. The thing about Randy Vasquez is that we've all been waiting for something bad to happen all year long. We've been waiting for the other shoe to drop. All the underlying metrics say that this guy has kind of gotten lucky. Team is 14-8 in his starts this year, which would be a really good record. I don't think that's his record, but that would be a really good record. I didn't know Baseball Reference keeps track of run support for pitchers. That's fun. I'm going to have to keep an eye on that now that I know that exists. But we've all been waiting all year long going, like, at some point, Randy Vasquez is going to turn into a pumpkin. Unfortunately for Randy Vasquez, that happened like the day after they traded for his replacements, essentially. And right before the Nestor Cortez decision had to be made. If you're wondering, because I know you were not watching, Darren, if you're wondering why the Padres lost to the Cardinals on Saturday, the answer is the other shoe dropped.
Oh, was it? Okay, I missed that.
Randy Vasquez turned into a pumpkin. He pitched 4 innings, gave up 5 earned runs, struck out 3, and was generally, he looked like the Randy Vasquez we've been waiting for all year. His stuff just wasn't there, and he was getting tagged. And so it was a very, very bad timing for the outing. I think he's probably getting demoted to El Paso anyway when Nestor Cortez is getting called up. But at that moment, he made their decision really easy. But yeah, he's a great guy. Even he's better than Kyle Hart, right? He's a great guy to have as your quote unquote 6th starter who's waiting down in El Paso should you need someone to come up and make a start.
Right. Especially with uncertainty regarding, at least for me, still a little bit more on Darvish. We'll see if he can do it back-to-back times.
And
tomorrow, I think, and King.
Yeah.
I don't care about these numbers. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't care about the numbers. I don't know what the numbers are telling me. That's all. When he mixed up a rehab start and gave up 6 earned runs, I think, a couple home runs, that's not one where I don't even know, are they even telling him to try to get outs there? Or are they just telling him to get the ball over the plate?
You talking about King?
Yeah, Michael King.
Oh, I didn't even pay attention to the numbers. I didn't care.
I'm not, the numbers don't tell me anything unless, somebody says that that they watched it. They do have that video feed inside of Petco Park where they get to watch all these minor league games. But unless somebody tells me there was something more concerning there, I'm not going to be upset about numbers because that guy coming back is literally, I'm guessing, just trying to throw the ball over the middle of the plate. So from that
Yeah.
standpoint, I'm fine.
I also like there's a part of me that knows that coming back from such a absolutely mysterious injury, no one can look at Michael King and be like, we know why his shoulder nerve shut down. They have no idea. Did he sleep on it wrong? Did he throw weird? Is it just one of those things? I don't know. And this was the first time that he was getting fired up in a real game that had stakes, like really minor, minuscule stakes, but stakes nonetheless. And pitching against real hitters who were not just like kind of, taking BP. And I imagine there was a little bit of he had to quiet that voice in the back of his head of like, you can do this. Your shoulder's not going to give out. You're not going to miss another couple months of baseball. You can throw this and still be healthy afterwards. And I think that was the most important part. If you walked out of there feeling, yeah, I can do this, the rest you can figure out.
Yeah. All right. Well, Padres will play tonight, so I think I'm probably tapped out on Padre talk unless you have something else for me. I, again, just got back, so I'm feeling a little bit behind. I know that we have MLS or Leagues Cup action tomorrow at Snapdragon being Tuesday, so we'll probably make my way there for that. I did see the reports. Thank you to the Discord channel for linking in that Milan Iloski is going to go to the Philadelphia Union. Apparently, there's a report out of Denmark that there is a $1 million transfer fee between Philadelphia and FC Nordsjælland. That's a lot of money.
I imagine that could have been why he's not still on San Diego FC.
I would imagine, but this is where I'm not sure I fully understand where the priorities are. Like, if you can get $1 million from Philadelphia, is that better business than whatever it was that San Diego? There's just some layers to this that I'm not fully clear on. But I also saw somebody, who was it? I think it was Omid, who said something about, so much for him wanting to play in Europe. I will just tell you, that's what he literally told me. So I'm going to believe the guy when he says that he, when he got back, I did the first interview with him. And I said something about, I always felt like this was going to happen, right? Like FC Nordsjælland, San Diego Football Club, sister clubs, you were just going there so you can learn the system so you can come back here, right? And he's like, no. He's like, no, actually, we I wanted to challenge myself and go and play in Europe. And I took him at his word. I believe him, but there was always going to be a price that it would be worth it for him to play Major League Soccer and not be playing in Denmark. And I guess that price was met according to this report, again, which comes from Denmark. It comes from Copenhagen, not from any of the MLS insiders, about what the actual fee was for him. So, and that's not an insignificant amount of money. So I saw that he had only played 22 minutes in 3 games for Nordsjælland, had a couple of shots, no goals, just 22 minutes in 3 games. Maybe, again, this was part of what they were doing there is they didn't want to run the risk of getting Milan Iloski hurt. I understand that an SDFC fan might feel a little bit disappointed that he's coming back to Major League Soccer, but he's not coming back here where he seemed like he would be such a good fit. I do understand it. I just, like I said, I find myself thinking, wait a second, how does this, what's the dynamic at play here with Nordsjælland and SDFC? Where did they make a mutual business decision, or like, are they really completely separated houses? I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know the answer to that either. I had assumed that a lot of this arguing over money had to do with Milan and his agent, but the transfer fee doesn't go to them. So yeah, I have no idea where to come from this. I share your same curiosity, and I share the frustration of the fans who were like, if he's gonna be in MLS, we wish he just would have stayed here. That's not the way it worked out, and it's okay. You probably didn't get a chance to watch the game against Tigres on Friday night, Saturday night. I watched like the first few minutes of it and gave up pretty quickly. It didn't seem like they were taking it completely seriously, based on the lineup and some other things. I saw some quotes from Mikey afterwards where he essentially said like, hey, these guys are tired. They've played a lot of games. We have, the whole rest of the season and the playoffs to think about, and I'm paraphrasing and I might be adding to that, but seemed like once they lost the first game and Anders got that red card, they were like, okay, let's make sure our priorities are in order. We're going to play this game. We're going to play it hard, but we're going to do everything we can to protect what we have built up over our inaugural season and keep on with that momentum when the season starts back up in just a few days. So I mostly sat that one out, and it didn't sound like I missed a ton.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm going to go back and watch it. I mean, I probably will, just because, there might be something I pick up that will help me in the broadcast against Sporting KC upcoming this weekend. But, and I'm probably going to go to the game tomorrow. I still think mathematically they aren't officially eliminated yet. I think I have that right. But, they're one of a handful of clubs. How many teams are, let's see, how many teams have no wins in this tournament? Houston, Atlanta, SDFC, Charlotte, Montreal, LAFC, but they have draws. Maybe they are. I don't know. Math isn't the strong suit, but you're sitting on 0 points. The top 4 make it 6, 6, 5, 4. So I guess you are out of it. Okay. Well, they're out. So, I would think if you thought the effort wasn't to your satisfaction on Friday night, was it? I don't really know what to expect tomorrow night, but
right. And like the whole young back line was there, with the exception of the two left back, right back was Negri and Harangi. You just had Dua and Pilcher in the middle. Yepe got pulled at one point with like 20 minutes left, and I think there was concerns that maybe he got injured, and Mikey was just like, no, we're just protecting him, which all of this says they were not taking this match very seriously, which is fine. That's a totally fine thing for them to do. And same thing with this match tomorrow. Like, get some of the new guys out there, get some of the young guys, just some guys that need reps, get them out there, get them playing, see what you can see. But I don't think that they're looking at this like it's an important game for SDFC to go out and win or make a statement or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's 1-1 late in the second half, 65th minute or something like that. So, I didn't see it. So it's really hard for me to comment on it. But
yeah,
I do think now, now and now the focus can be exclusively on the remaining 9 MLS matches and making sure that you secure your postseason spot and finish out the transfer window. See if you can bring in another piece of the puzzle. And, maybe there's somebody out there a little bit more veteran. Still a couple of weeks to go before the MLS trade or MLS transfer window closes. So we have a guest lined up for Wednesday. We'll talk a little bit more in depth about SDFC and Major League Soccer on Wednesday. All right. Again, Monday podcast always free. So hopefully you enjoyed this. We'll keep it short and sweet here today. If you're a subscriber, you get access to the Discord channel, Front Row Seat. It's a newsletter delivered to your inbox each weekday. Some of the headlines that you need to know and that will benefit you as a smart sports fan. John lumps those in there and sends them right there to your inbox. Other things that we have working, we'll get to the mailbag a little later on this week. So stay tuned. Plenty more if you become a subscriber for as low as $5 a month. And thank you to everybody that subscribed. I think we had a pretty good traffic week last week, John. You were telling me. So do appreciate everybody who has joined in their support, this 100% listener-supported podcast. We do appreciate that, and thank you to everybody for subscribing, especially those that came in late last week with the trade deadline. So maybe you caught a little glimpse into some of the stuff that we're working on in the future.
Yeah, thank you to everyone who has signed up to be a paid subscriber over the last week, and everyone who's been with us for a while. We had one person in the mailbag, and I'll make this super duper quick, reached out to me and was like, what do I make of this deal between ESPN and NFL, where ESPN is getting NFL Red Zone and stuff like that I think they're going to be able to package with their standalone ESPN product that they're going to come out with. And in exchange, the NFL gets ownership stake of ESPN. And they were like, what do I make of this? I was like, what do you make of this? It is that ESPN, which is supposed to be a news organization that covers professional sports, maybe most importantly or most notably the National Football League, is now partially owned by the National Football League. That's really bad for a place that's trying to protect some journalistic integrity. It's like, that's what it means. And everyone's response was, all the more reason to support Section 1904 and independent journalism and sports media coverage. So shout out to all of you guys. We couldn't do it without you. And honestly, it's really nice to do it without those strings attached.
Yeah, I mean, I will always be upfront about this. Full disclosure is, I do get a check occasionally or someday from SDFC, but I don't think that has too much impact here on the overall quality.
They're not part owner here.
Do they want to be? Yeah, we're looking for people. So I will always say that, I do work with them. So, but I still think, though, having been around them a little bit, I don't think they're as overbearing as others that I've heard of. Yeah. So
yeah.
Alrighty. Good to be back. Thank you, everybody. And we'll do it again on Tuesday.